Hello, Math 96. So on Monday, May 3rd, I put out this agenda and asked you to watch this video, the extra video on Google Classroom. And after that, I asked you to do example 1 and example 2 on page 108 on your own. Now, if you were struggling with that, this is a video made just to help you with those two graphs. So if you already finished example 1 and 2 on page 108 all on your own, you don't have to watch this video. Okay, so here we go. So this is page 108, example 1, and it's to graph the quadratic function. You need to start with x equals negative b over 2a in order to create your t-chart. When you do x equals negative b over 2a, use parentheses. Identify a is 2, b is negative 8. So in this spot for b, I'm going to put in negative 8. In this spot for a, I'm going to put in 2. If you don't get this value correct at the very beginning of graphing a quadratic, then your points won't come out correct. So on the top is negative 8, which changes to positive 8. On the bottom is 2 times 2 is 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So in our t-chart for the x, we get 2. We put that in the middle of the t-chart, okay? Now, we'll get the y value in just a minute, but for the remaining x values, you pick numbers above and below the number 2. So I'm going to go 2, 3, 4, and I'm also going to go below 2. So 2, 1, 0. So that's how we make up the values on the t-chart. Numbers above the vertex point, this is going to be our vertex of our parabola. So numbers above 2 is 3 and 4, and numbers below 2 is 1 and 0. Now, once we're done knowing what our x values are going to be, we don't need this formula anymore. So we're done with that. Now we just start, sorry about that, taking our equation. We can change it to y equals, and it's 2x squared minus 8x plus 2. That's our problem right here. Plus 2 looks a little funny. Let me fix that. Okay, and then we just start plugging in the x values, right? So we're going to plug in numbers here and here. And you should always use parentheses. So your y value will be 2 times something squared minus 8 times something plus 2. And the something is going to be our x values. So I'm going to start with the vertex. I'm going to plug in the 2. X value is 2. I'm going to do the exponent first. So right here, 2 squared is 4 times the outside 2 is 8. Right here, negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. And then I'm going to bring down plus 2. And then I'm going to do these two numbers. 8 minus 16 is negative 8 plus 2. Got to keep remembering to bring down the back amount. So negative 8 plus 2, that's equal to negative 6. So when we plugged in a 2, we got a negative 6. And we can make that dot on the graph. Over 2, down 6. Over 2, down 6. Oops. There we go. That's going to be our vertex. Now, one way that we can kind of make sure we're doing the right thing as we do our t-chart is to check whatever your lead is. In this case, it's positive 2. A positive lead means that your graph is going to open up. So I already know my graph is going to be something like this. I just don't know how wide or narrow or where the points are. But if we keep plugging in our values, we'll figure that out. Okay? If it was a negative lead number, then the graph would open down. All right, so now we're going to just keep going. So I'm going to erase my blue. I'm going to plug in another x value right here, right? I'm going to plug in another value. So then I'm just going to go right here. I'm going to plug in a 1. So I do the exponent first. So 1 squared is 1 times 2. Negative 8 times 1 is negative 8. Bring down the 2. So our y value will be equal to 2 minus 8 is negative 6 plus 2. Our y is worth negative 4. And I'm going to go ahead and plot that point. So I'm going to go to the middle, over 1 and down 4, make the dot. Okay, I'm going to erase my blue, and I'm going to plug in another x value. Just get my parenthesis back there. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to plug in x is 0. 0 is nice, it's quick. 0 squared is 0, times 2 is 0, negative 8 times 0 is 0, plus 2, so my y value would be equal to 2. And then I'm going to make that dot. 0, don't move, up 2. So now I have one side of my graph going up because at the vertex is where it's going to make that bend. And we know that this was our vertex at the bottom because it was always going to be our first point that we graphed. Now, if you're confident in your math, you're going to find out that these two numbers will be the same as these. I'm going to do the math just to prove it to you, but you should see a pattern there. Okay, let me erase the blue. This time I'm going to plug in a 3. Do the exponent first. 3 squared is 9. 2 times 9 is 18. Negative 8 times 3 is negative 24. Bring down the plus 2. Keep going. 18 minus 24 is negative 6. Plus 2 equals negative 4. And look, it's the same value as this one. So I'm going to plot that point over 3, down 4. So there we go. We're moving upwards. Now we have one more value to plug in. Erase my blue. Whoops. Okay, my parenthesis back in. One more to go. So let's plug in a 4 for x. 4 squared is 16. 2 times 16 is 32. Negative 8 minus 4 is negative 32. Bring down the plus 2. Y is equal to 32 minus 2 is 0, plus 2 equals 2. And what do you know? That's the same number as the bottom. And that's that symmetry that we have with parabola. So I'm going to plot that point over 4 up 2, over 4 up 2. And you can see how the points are across from each other. And there we go. There's our parabola. Make sure you do have arrows on the end. The parabola goes forever. Okay? And make it smooth down here at the vertex the best you can. It is never V-shaped. It's always a U shape. Okay? Let's do the next one. This is example number 2 on page 108 of your notes. Again, the first step is to use the formula negative b over 2a. That defines our x values for the t-chart. When you use that formula, use parentheses. Identify what the b value is, which is right here. It's positive 2. And the a value is that hidden negative 1. Okay, so there's a hidden negative 1 there. Okay, so on the top is the b, so 2. On the bottom is the a, the negative 1. And again, if you don't get this value correct at the beginning, what we're doing right now, then your whole parabola won't come out. Your t-chart will be all off. So it's negative 2 on the top and 2 times negative 2 on the bottom. So our x value of the vertex, -2 divided by -2 is +1. So that goes smack dab in the middle of the t-chart. That's going to be where our vertex is. I'm just going to abbreviate V for vertex. And then you pick numbers above that value, so 1, 2, and 3. Pick numbers below that value, 0 and -1. Okay, once we're done with that formula, then we just start plugging them in. I'm going to erase this for just a minute. So I'm going to write down my function. Y will be equal to -1 x squared, and you really should write that -1 out visually so you can see it, plus 2x plus 4. And now we're just going to start plugging in for the x. So I'm going to put parentheses. And I'm going to start with the vertex value of 1. So I'm going to plug in a 1. And we'll get our y value. Do the exponent first. 1 times 1. 1 squared is 1 times the outside -1 would be -1. 2 times 1 is 2. Bring down the plus 4. Do the math. -1 plus 2 is 1. Plus 4 is 5. So when we plugged in a 1, we got a 5. So I'm going to plot that dot. So over 1, up 5. And this will be where our vertex is at. Now, check. Our lead is a negative. When you have a negative lead, that means your graph will open down. So we can already be thinking our graph is going to be something like that. Okay? All right. So let's plug in some more values. Let me erase the green. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in the 0 next because 0 is easy. 0 squared is 0 times the -1 would be 0. 2 times 0 is 0 plus 4. So our y is just equal to 4. I'm going to plot that dot. 0, don't move. Up 4. It's right here. Going to erase my green. Going to plug in another number. The next one I'll plug in is -1. To be careful with this now. Right here, -1 squared means -1 times -1, which is a +1, times the outside -1. Be careful with that, okay? -1 times -1, that's what it means to be squared right here, right? Is +1 times the outside -1 would be still be a -1. 2 times -1 is -2, and bring down the 4. -1 minus 2 is -3 plus 4. That would be -1. So our next dot is -1, -1. So left 1, down 1. And we have our one side of our, whoops, I missed it. Our one side of our parabola already. You can always smooth this off at the top, right? There we go. Now, what we learned in the last one is that these numbers will be the same. So we can put a 4 here, can put a -1 here, and the dot should come out on the other side. So let's graph this one, 2, 4. So over 2, up 4. See how it's right across from this dot? I'm just going to swing my graph down. Nice and curved there. And then the last dot is over 3, down 1. And it's right across from our other dot. And that's the symmetry of parabolas that makes it nice. Please make sure there's arrows on the ends of your graphs. They go forever. Okay, you guys, I hope this helps. We're going to be doing lots with graphs of parabolas, which come from the quadratic functions. Make sure page 108 is now uploaded into your digital workbook. Thank you.